No, I have to do that this year, though.
Yes, you
Yeah,
do.
it's so much fun though. But like Mrs. Nancy's always telling us that spend especially if you go to state, she's like spend as much time as you need studying out because we're supposed to bring props and
Right.
stuff show and explain more. But she said spend as much time as you can, make sure everything's organized, you know where exactly everything is on the table, and that you're comfortable and stuff before you say that you're ready, because you can take as much time as you need for prep.
Do you know when it is? When's my presentation?
I don't know.
I miss it.
No,
I have to do it.
February, March, something like that.
Okay. Because I was on my mission trip, I couldn't go to the fair. Or I couldn't do anything. I couldn't do my thing either.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
I've been going to New Life Island every summer since I was 8 to spend a week at camp, up until last summer, which instead of going to New Life Island, I paid for private dance lessons. I found out about New Life Island because I was in Awana and we had our weekend Awana camp there. And I really liked it, so I decided to go back for a week that summer. New Life Island is a Christian camp whose motto is never leave home the same, or never leave the same. And that's really important, I think, and it comes out through camp because I've learned something new every year that I go. New Life Island is located on an actual island in the Delaware River near Frenchtown, New Jersey. And to get to it, since it is an island, there's a shallow spot where if the water hasn't rained that much, you can drive your car right through it and onto the island, which is really nice because then you don't have to carry your stuff a lot. But if it has rained a lot that year, then there is a walking bridge that you have to park on the mainland, go over the walking bridge, and then carry your duffel bag all the way to your cabin. Which, thankfully, I've only had to do that 1 year for Awana camp, because I think if I had known, I would have packed a lot later. I like a lot of things about camp at New Life Island. I always learn about God through the personal and cabin devotions. The chapel and evening services always challenge me to grow in my faith. The craft shop is fun. I learned how to make hemp necklaces there. I like canoeing and the pool's really nice, and getting to know my counselor and cabin is really fun. But my favorite part of camp at New Life Island is high ropes course. I love high ropes course. It's sort of new at New Life Island. Last summer when I was there, or 2 summers ago, it was there for 4 years, and now it's been there for 5. And as soon as you enter the high ropes area at New Life Island, it's a serious time, and there's certain rules that you have to follow. And otherwise you can get kicked out of the high ropes area because someone could get hurt. The first rule is pay attention. You have to pay attention to what's going on around you, what's going on with the person up there, and listening and following directions. If you don't, then you could get hurt, the people around you could get hurt, or the person on the element. Another thing that you have to make sure that you're always conscious of is you never say anything negative when you're in the high ropes area. And you really come to understand how important that rule is when you're up there actually doing the course, because the encouragement that the people give you down below really helps you to give you the strength to move on and keep going even when you're scared on the element. Another very important rule is never, ever, ever step on the rope. There's many reasons for this rule, and one of them is that if you step on the rope, you could become tangled and twisted in it, and then that could put you in danger or the person on the element. Also, stepping on the rope damages it. The rope is very expensive to replace, and also you don't want that rope to break while you're hanging up there. Another thing is that you have to be watching where the rope is at all times, and you may have certain jobs such as holding the rope or feeding the rope behind your back, and so you need to be watching that the rope doesn't have any knots in it. Because not stepping on the rope is such an important rule, there is a punishment if you do step on the rope. And that is that you have to pick up the rope and kiss it 3 times and say, I love the rope, I love the rope, I love the rope. Because, believe me, when you're up there, you love that rope. If you're not doing the course, there are different jobs you could have. How dare you have that phone ring while I'm doing my presentation? I'm serious. Pause button.
Hello? Hello?
That better be a person on that phone.
Hello?
Oh, we are scratched phone.
I'm...
Can I start my
Should be
Esther
your
Speech
brother.
over?
Hello? Yes?
That's fine.
Yes, you are.
why I wanted to go before you. I
No.
can see that was gonna happen.
Yes. You know what to do, Paul.
My next speech on, wait till you hear
Tell him that we want. Tell him that you need that the one that we want to work, and the connection is up in the attic, and he's supposed to look at the chewed one that's outside.
Yeah. What do you do with the body?
You're gonna burn it.
No, he won't ask our cable number.
And sprinkle the ashes in the ocean.
Then you'll have to call me back. Bye.
You better not call you
Yeah,
back.
call you back. What are you telling them?
I'm sorry. We are expecting a repairman at the house, and
That was important.
yeah, it was important. The guy is on his way.
Okay, can I start off from my love high ropes course?
Yes.
Is that thing still rolling?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait,
Well, I'm gonna kill you.
wait, is it recording?
Mhm.
What's high rope?
Okay. Starting off,
Go ahead.
I love high ropes course. It's pretty new at New Life Island. It's only been around for 5 summers now. And as soon as you enter the high ropes area, it's a serious time. There's certain rules that you have to pay attention. And so you just have to. If you don't, you get hurt. The people on the high ropes course could get hurt. And the people around you could. Another rule is never say anything negative. And you really do need the encouragement when you're up doing the element. When you're scared, it really helps having people telling you from down below that you're doing a good job. So if someone's saying something negative, or like, you barely moved at all, you're taking so long, that can really, it's not helpful. So you really have to make sure that you're only building people up, not tearing them down at the high ropes area. Another rule is never step on the rope, because the rope's very expensive to replace, and stepping on it damages it, and you really don't want that rope to be damaged, to break while you're hanging up there. And also, stepping on it could make you become entangled in the rope and twisted, causing you to get hurt, people around you, person on the high ropes almost get hurt. And so, since this is such an important rule, you do have a punishment if you do step on the rope, and that is that you have to kiss the rope 3 times and say, I love the rope, I love the rope, I love the rope. Believe me, you love that rope. And that's only happened to one person ever since I've been at the high ropes course, because it's so important that you not do it. If you're not actually on the high ropes element at the time, there's different jobs that you might have, and one of those jobs is you could be a ladder holder. To get up to where the ropes and wires are when you're actually doing the course, you first climb on a ladder, and then there's huge staples stuck into the tree. So the ladder isn't really attached to anything, so you have one person on each side holding the ladder while you're climbing on the ladder. Another job that you could have is holding the coils of rope, so that if they're not laying on the ground, which they could get twisted or caught if they're on the ground. Another job that you might have is feeding the rope behind your back, and this is a very important step because, first of all, you can then get the rope, the coils of rope from the person. And also, Mr. Norm is the anchor. He's the camp director, and the anchor is basically, if something were to happen, like his body weight alone will just hold the person up there, but if something were to happen, the rope is actually attached to him, but if something were to happen to him, we could just lean back on the rope, and our body weight will hold the person up there. Mr. Norm just loves the high ropes course. He's so excited that it could be introduced to New Life Island. And they've tried to introduce a new course every year. So the first course that they had at New Life Island was called Burma Bridge, which is still there. Burma Bridge is approximately 30 feet off the ground, I believe. I'm trying to think back. I can't really remember that. The climb up there is you climb on a ladder, and then there's staples stuck into the tree. And once you get up to the element, there's a wire or a cable that you stand on, and you're attached in harness so that nothing can really bad happen to you. And on either side of you, there are 2 ropes that are holding on to. So you kind of are walking across the one wire and holding on to the 2 ropes to help you balance yourself. Before you actually begin the element, you are asked what your goal is, and you try and meet that goal while you're up there. That can really be helpful knowing that you're aiming towards something. And for mine was to make it all the way across and halfway back. And then you lean between the rope and the wire to come down and slowly get lowered to the ground, which coming down is one of my favorite parts. Some people don't even complete the climb. For people who are afraid of heights or scared, it can be really important for them just to have complete their goal to at least attempt to do the ropes course. Another one that was added to New Life Island is called Tricky Vines. This one's slightly higher than River Bridge, and it's also harder than River Bridge. The climb up there is the same, and again, when you're up there, you need one wire. You step on the wire, but instead of having ropes on either side of you, you just walk across. There's another wire above you, and ropes hang down across that. So you hold on to one rope, and you kind of shimmy across and grab the other one, and go that way. But as you do the rope course all the way across between the two trees, the ropes that you're holding on to and going to the next one get farther and farther apart. So instead of being able to stand right underneath the rope and just reach to grab the other one, you now have to step away from that rope, and so you're not as grounded and feeling as safe, because that causes it to shake a little bit more because you're not standing directly under and being able to hold as high up on the rope. So I didn't actually make it all the way across on this one. The last ropes were just really too far apart for me, so I did come down. After each high ropes element, we talk about how we can apply what we've learned to our Christian lives. And on this one, we talked about how in the beginning the ropes were closer together, and that was easier. And that prepared us for being able to go to the ones where they were harder and spread apart. Just like how in our life with God, He'll give us harder things later. He first gives us the easiest stuff to work on and learn how to trust in Him through those. And then when something really horrible happens that we need to lean on Him for, we have already had practice through the simple things. And also, we remember that God's given us a promise that He'll never give us more than we can handle. Just like how if we couldn't handle being able to get across to where the ropes were really far apart, that was okay and we could come down. The next one that was added to New Life Island was the rappelling platform. This one's sort of my favorite because I think that it's easiest, although some people wouldn't agree with me. This one's a lot different from any of the other high ropes elements that are on the course at New Life Island, because this one, you walk up the staples again, but you're met at a platform this time. A wooden, it's pretty small, but you can fit 2 people on it. And so this one's a little bit different. Normally you climb up on the staples and you're alone up there by yourself. I mean, there's people down below you, but you're alone up top there. On this one, there's a person waiting for you at the platform, which makes it a little bit easier, and they can encourage you right from there. Once you are given the command rappel and you say rappel on, you back away to the edge of the platform, and you lean back, and you just have to trust on the rope and the people below you to hold you up. So this can be one of the scariest ones for some people, but I had a lot of fun with it. And once you're lowered enough, you can start bouncing and pushing off the tray. So it's just a lot of fun. On this one, we talked about how we need to trust God, and also the people who are encouraging us. We need to encourage others in their Christian walks and through their lives. When we see people hurting or having a tough time, we can pray for them. We're also be there for them, just like people were there to encourage us. The hardest ropes course on New Life Island that last time I was there was, I can't really remember the name. I think it was something like Dead Man's Shuffle or something about a shuffle. It had a really scary name. The climb up there is the same, but this time you walk on 2 wires instead of 1. It's also the highest one currently at New Life Island. I believe Mr. Nolan told us that it was about 50 feet off the ground. It's really high. And also, it's a bit like Tricky Vines in that there's a rope hanging down, but instead of ropes being spaced out along the way, there's just one rope, so you kind of shuffle along and you pull the rope that's on it's on something that glides across the wire. So you're just kind of shuffling along and pulling on the rope. Another rule about this one is that you're only allowed one hand on the rope at all times, which is really scary. Only 3 people that week at camp were brave enough to try it. My cabin mate and I, and another person who has been going to camp about as long as I have. We had all done ropes course once before that week, My cabinmate and I both did the rappelling platform, and the other girl had redone turkey vines for, I think it was like her third time or something. Well, so while we were setting up and putting on our harnesses and hard hats, Mr. Norm thought he would tell us a little bit about his newest favorite high ropes element. So he asked us, and he's like, do you know why we need to buy a new rope for this element? And we were like, no, Mr. Norm. And he told us that this rope that was used on the rappelling platform, the tricky vines, and Burma Bridge was too short because this one was so much higher than any of the other elements. And we're like, that's great, Mr. Norm. So then he told us that the staples were farther apart than they had been on any of the others that you would climb up on. And also, they had chosen the more difficult path to climb up on the tree. There was a part of the tree that kind of slanted a little bit. So instead of having us climb this way on the tree, so that we would kind of be leaning over ourselves, he chose this part of the curve, so that as you climb, you're kind of leaning back a little bit. That was kind of interesting. The climb definitely was the most difficult one. And also, he had to tell us that the wires that we would be walking on were looser than any other of the wires that we had been on before, so that when we shuffled across them, they'd wiggle more. So when he told us that, I was just like, thank you so much for telling us, Mr. Norm. We really did need to know that. So I knew that I'd be safe, but I was really scared, more scared than I had been on any of the other ones. So when they asked for my goal, and I said, I'll try and get halfway across the 2 wires. That's it. I'm stopping after that. I'm done. Finished. That's all. So I was last one to go, and the first girl that had went from my cabin, she started the climb, and she was really small, and she just couldn't reach the staples, so she had to come down. She hadn't even completed the climb. The next girl that went, she actually went up and made it all the way across and back, but she's like a super girl, like high ropes, like with her. She had done Burma Bridge with her eyes closed, and she did tricky vines with one hand. Good for her. So, but she had said that it was definitely the most difficult one that she had been on. So, that's just what I needed to hear. So, I completed the climb, I got up there. It was really hard, but I made it. And I didn't want to step out on the 2 wires. I was really scared, but everyone below me was real encouraging, so I stepped out, and I took a couple of steps, and I shuffled across. And I was like, it doesn't even feel like I've moved an inch. It's like I keep moving, and I feel like I'm not moving, I'm not going anywhere, but everyone called out from down below me, and they said, you're doing a great job, Esther, keep moving. Look at, you moved a couple of inches. So I gripped the rope really hard, and my adrenaline was pumping so much, and I felt like my feet were going down. I'm going to take a few more steps forward. So I moved a few more steps, and I stopped. And the closer that you get towards center, the more wiggly the ropes get because they're attached on either side. So I called down, and I stopped and was like, you're right, it's really wiggly. I want to come down. I'm done. I'm finished. Get me off of here. So, but Mr. Norm called out to me. He's like, if you want to come down, Esther, that's okay. But, you know, maybe do you want to try and continue on? You're really close to your goal. And I was like, I want to make my goal. I really do. I knew how it had felt on tricky vines to not complete the course, but I really wanted to make my goal, but I was scared. So the girl that had completed it called out to me, and she said, look at the tree in front of you. And I looked at it, and she said, stare at it. Don't look anywhere else. Just look at it and keep moving, and don't talk. And I was like, okay. So I followed her directions exactly, and I picked a spot, and I stared at it, and I just kept moving. And I didn't say anything for a while. And I didn't even realize I was past center. I was definitely past center. So since I hadn't really said anything, Mr. Norm called out to me. He was like, Esther, are you doing okay up there? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And I called out, and I said, is it okay for me to change my goal? And he said, yeah, it's fine to change your goal. What's your goal? And I said, I'm going to touch the tray. And he said, I think that that's a really great goal. So I kept walking, and before I knew it, I just reached out, and I could touch the tray. And Mr. Norman told me how to come down. This time I had to lean between the 2 wires that I had been just walking on. And that one, because the trees were so far apart and it was the longest one, I could kind of like get a swing off of it and kind of like rock back and forth as you came down. It was so cool. And so after I got down there and we started taking off all of our gear and stuff, we talked through how we could apply this to our lives. And we talked about our goals. And Mr. Norm told us that we all have talents in our lives, and God's given us special things that he wants us to do with those talents, and sometimes we will put goals so that we can try and reach them, but we need to make sure that our goals are matching up with God's goals and our plans for our lives. So if we find that our goals aren't the same as God's, we need to be flexible and change towards what He wants. So while setting goals are good, we shouldn't settle for less than what God's best is and what He has in mind for us. So on the high ropes course, I learned that if I ever do another high ropes element, I won't set my goal too low, and I'll trust in my ability that I can do it. And in life, I learned to never settle for less than God's best in my life, no matter what that might be.
Interruption and all. Yeah, actually, without the interruption, you probably would have made the time. I couldn't tell how long.
I'm ready.
Ready? Set. Go.
Hi, my name is Laura Vale, and I am 14 years old. I live at 6 Cumberland Court in Barnegat, New Jersey. I am obsessed